Hi, my name is Stephen Nolan, and I'm the Managing Director of the UNDP-convened Financial Centres for Sustainability. Today is the 4th of November, and what we are doing across the course of today, live from Dublin, is we're unpacking what happened in COP26 Finance Day yesterday, and what all the announcements and commitments made by industry, regulators, policymakers and governments, what do they actually mean for the sustainable finance agenda, and where do we go next over the next 12 months as we try to realise the COP26 ambitions, which are fundamentally in the finance space about mobilising more capital in support of the climate action agenda. As I said, I'm here in Dublin today, and I'm in the headquarters of Ireland's largest bank, AIB, and I'm with the CEO, Dr. Colin Hunt. And Colin, I'm delighted that you were able to join us today. Thank you very much for making the time to be with me.
Thanks so much indeed, Stephen, and thanks for making my life easier by coming into us rather than getting me to come to you.
Yes, so that was easy, and I do appreciate, again, in terms of space today, and on behalf of the UNDP, we're delighted with the support that you always generously give to us, and including your colleagues, including Sarah Dempsey. So thank you very much for that, Colin.
Thank you.
Colin, as Ireland's largest bank, it wouldn't be an understatement to say that you've really led from the front on the sustainability agenda and the sustainable finance agenda. So just in terms of a key question, it's obvious that sustainability is a key tenet to your corporate strategy. And what's your take on how the agenda has taken hold in the last few months, or indeed been dominated the global narrative in the last number of weeks? Not just COP, but also the G20 as well, please, Colin.
Well, if you go back 4 or 5 years, Stephen, you and I know damn well this was something of a niche interest. It was a marginal interest. And it wasn't really given the necessary level of seriousness, in my view. And ironically, at the start of the pandemic, there was a view abroad that the pandemic was such an immediate threat to the world that it was going to necessitate us pushing the sustainability agenda to the side to concentrate on the immediate threat posed by this health crisis. What has actually happened is that, like nothing else in our history, outside of war, outside of World War, the world's attention has been focused on the simple truth that we live in a very fragile ecosystem, we live in a very fragile planet. And rather than pushing sustainability to the side, it has put it at the very top of the political and business agenda. And what was once marginal, what was once niche, is now mainstream. And even 2-3 years ago, it was a sort of almost like a tick-the-box exercise in meetings with stakeholders. Whereas now it's central to the question. It's one of the first questions we get asked when we're talking to our leading investors. What are you doing about ESG? What progress are you making? What are your plans? So I have to say, I was really enthused by the serious intent that we saw on display in Rome at the G20 and indeed in Glasgow at COP26 over the past number of days. There is now an awareness that we are dealing with a truly existential crisis. A few years ago, people describing this as existential were regarded as maniacs. Now everybody's saying it's existential. There's an acceptance that this is a race to save our planet and save humanity. And at long last, we're there in terms of the appropriate scale of ambition. We heard it loud and clear in Glasgow. We heard it loud and clear in Rome. Vitally important now that these great leaders of countries around the world don't return to their capitals and revert to norm. The path is laid out. The ambition is clear. Let's start driving and meeting the targets implicit in those ambitions.
And thank you for that, Colin. And that's a very similar message. Earlier on this morning, we had Mairead McGuinness, the European Union Commissioner for Financial Services and Financial Stability, with us today. And very similar message that she said is that once COP has passed us, we can't then move on to the next topic. Yeah. This is at the core of everything we're doing. And that's, again, great to hear you underpin her message there as well. And as you said, there's loads of global ambition, and as you see, seemingly backed up by a lot of different national commitments. And we're seeing in the media here in Ireland today that we're waiting for the Climate Action Plan to drop. Great when Minister Eamon Ryan then goes to COP next week. He's able to show this is Ireland's commitment across all different sectors. But all these different commitments, this global ambition, where does this leave Ireland in terms of our own economy and the pace of change within the EU as well? It's not just Ireland, it's us as a partner in the EU and meeting the overall EU targets. Please, Colin.
We're in the fortunate position that we don't have a plethora of fossil fuel intensive industries locally. But that shouldn't in any way create a sense of complacency or a view that the lift that we have is somewhat less onerous than countries that have a very heavy industrial and manufacturing base. We have our own challenges. They're very clear. They're in housing, they're in transport, they're in energy, and they're in agriculture. And we have to get serious about the meeting of our own targets by 2030. The ambition is out there. We're going to see the climate action plan, I understand it, in the next number of hours, next number of days. And that's something that once it is laid out, it's vitally important that this becomes a living document. It isn't just a major announcement occasion. It has to be the start of a series of delivery events.
Yes.
So for us, as we look at it, in terms of our own responsibilities, it's not enough to have the commitment. It's not enough to have the ambition or the target. You've got to measure your progress. Well, they have to be transparent in terms of and they have to be hard in terms of the targets. And you've got to measure, monitor, and report openly and transparently on your progress against those targets on a very frequent basis. So let's see the ambition matched, the commitment matched by actual delivery against those targets. It's going to be a huge capital cost. There's a wide array of numbers out there being bandied about in relation to how much the transition to a lower carbon, greener future is going to cost. In an Irish context, I've seen numbers, an array of numbers, as I said. The IMF is estimating, I think it's about 20 billion a year required to fund this necessary, vital transition. I suspect that the majority of that funding will come from the private sector.
Yes.
So that creates a huge opportunity for institutions like AIB, this institution is very ready to support and to drive, working with government and working with our customers, drive that transition to a lower carbon future. There's a mix of factors that are vital here. One, ambition, but ambition is not sufficient alone. You have to have the talent and the expertise to write the business, monitor the ambition, report on the ambition, and you also, of course, need the capital. And we're in a fortunate position that this has been something that is mainstream within AIB, and it has been mainstream for a large number of years now. So we have those vital features that I think are necessary to support and to drive that necessary change.
And Colin, just, you mentioned transparency, measure, monitor, and report. And from me, and forgive me if I'm overstating this, it's very clear looking in the risk analysis that was done first and foremost. Where are we at? Is now allowing you, because you've done that and it's ongoing, it's now allowing you to actually say, well, the opportunities. And so, I know you were with the UN Secretary General, you were a founding member, founding signatory of in UN headquarters, the Principles for Responsible Banking. You're one of the first institutions in Ireland to become a member of the TCFD. And there's another host of other initiatives, CDP and so on and so forth. And you've been recognised for that leadership. But as you said to me before, it does go beyond, you said, the monitoring, the measurement, the reporting, different central banks now looking at this from almost, from a climate stress perspective. And then during Ireland's Climate Finance Week a few weeks ago, you announced that you were doubling your green fund from 5 billion to 10 billion. If I can go all the way back to the pandemic, because I just as an interesting point, and I've heard you mention this before, during the pandemic, when a lot of other things were shuttered, what was the biggest part of your business here in AIB in terms of growth and supporting clients, please?
Well, the biggest part, the fastest growing part of the book, going back to 2018, has been our green area,
yes,
our green lending area. And it has proven to be extraordinarily robust from a credit perspective.
Yes.
Right the way through the pandemic, when there was so many industries that needed, so many customers of ours that needed support in the form of payment breaks or other types of modifications to their existing credit arrangements. The energy and infrastructure area climate action infrastructure area didn't require any. And that's testament to the quality of the underlying assets. as well. So it was, as I frequently refrain it, it is possible for us to do what's right while by the societies that we serve, while also doing what's right for for the institution and indeed for our stakeholders. So, as I said, this is a massive opportunity for the bank, and it's a massive opportunity to not only deliver on our own financial ambitions, but it's also a massive opportunity for us to underpin the quality and durability of our social license to operate.
Yes, that's a very important point. And you mentioned there, going back to renewables and the green side, testament to the underlying assets, but you also talked earlier on about the talent and expertise within. And I think it's also a testament to your colleagues that are actually overseeing that business as well, and obviously the leadership from your perspective. And that's a huge part. And we're seeing that now as well, Colin, that there is a war for talent right now in this space. You've been developing that talent for several years, as you've been looking at the risk analysis. I've been very much running in parallel. And I'm just conscious of your time as well, Colin. And I know you were good enough to give me time last year. We did a podcast. And I always was struck by one of your statements in this, where you said, look, we don't have the copyright here as AIB on this topic. And you were saying, we as a country, we need to see everybody doing this. So if I can, in the context of COP, in the context of we're unpacking Finance Day yesterday, and said a lot of commitments, a lot of great balls. We want to do more. We want to mobilise disclosures and so on and so forth. What would be, in terms of your final remarks, Colin, somebody else looking at you now as a financial services leader as well, saying, without giving away the secret sauce, what are the steps now that the Irish financial services sector needs to take collectively to move this agenda on in a major way within Ireland, please?
I think it comes down to, well, we all have stated ambitions, and that's very, very important. But key to the delivery of these ambitions, people, skills, talent, and the seriousness of your intent. It is not sufficient for you to have an office of sustainability. Everybody has an office of sustainability. You need to ensure that sustainability is deeply embedded in every facet of your business, that it is something that is key to your strategy. It is something that is not just a marketing byline or a strapline, but that you are deadly serious about how it influences the way that you do your business and the business that you do. And if you do that, as I believe we have, you will attract great talent. And we've managed to attract great talent because of the seriousness of our commitment in this space. Now, I absolutely, we don't have the copyright on this. We are very, very comfortable, though, with the central role that this plays here. And that has managed to create an element of magnetic attraction for people who are interested in sustainable finance and who want to work with a company that is at the cutting edge of sustainable finance in an Irish context. I do believe, though, that we have, as a country, an extraordinary opportunity to create a real industrial cluster in sustainable finance and in green finance. And I'm very, very eager that AIB, as a very important financial institution within the state, will play a leading role. But I do want to see an industrial cluster being created. I want, because the stronger the skills base that we can create in this country, in this space, the better for all of us. And ultimately, the more achievable those sustainable goals will become.
And I think, Colin, because I know your colleague Yvonne Holmes chairs Ireland's Sustainable Finance Skillnet, again, just showing again your support, but the return on investment of upskilling people. So we need, as you pointed out earlier on, the public, not just in Ireland, but the public, the state cannot afford this decarbonisation bill. So private capital is required. So the return on investment of upskilling people to develop new products and services, going through a risk management perspective into the opportunity. And again, you guys are at the core of that. And that's why I think you were good enough to launch it with Minister Donoghue and Achim Steiner, the UNDP administrator, a few weeks ago during Climate Finance Week, Ireland's first sustainable finance roadmap, which UNDP FC4S was delighted to participate in. So I think that's kind of, we're saying to all jurisdictions, 39 financial centres that we're part of, you need to have a roadmap. Yeah. You need to have all stakeholders come together, government, public, private. Where are we? And where we would like to be. So I think that, again, very much resonating with me. And I'm just conscious, Colin, I got to bring it to a close. But The key message I'm hearing, the key to delivery, people, talent, and as you said, the deadly seriousness from the C-suite down, and that message coming across. So this has to be part of your business agenda. It's no longer a nice to have. And you were very generous saying we were floating around 4 or 5 years ago. I can remember going into meetings and saying, well, that's the C-suite, it's the chairperson, it's the head of strategy. Actually, what is this and how do we get involved? So, Colin, I really do want to thank you for your support. We're here because doing this event today because of AIB support. I'm delighted that we're doing it from Dublin and we're doing it from your headquarters. And I just want to thank you for that support and that leadership. And if I may, just thank you to our audience who've been listening in. This is, as I said, it's unpacking COP26 Finance Day yesterday. And leaders like Colin and Mairead McGuinness, the European Commissioner earlier on, and Dr. Ma Jun, who was the co-chair of the G20 Sustainable Finance Working Group, their messages are all similar. Talent, innovation, and the seriousness around this. And Colin, maybe the last word to you, because again, I heard you say this a few weeks ago. Is 2030 too far away? Do we need to maybe draw back a little bit?
Well, let's say we get to 2025 or 2026 and it becomes abundantly apparent that we're going to miss the target. At that point, will 2030 be too far away? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Colin, Dr. Colin Hunt, thank you for joining us today at FC Fresh and CIFS 4th of November, unpacking COP26 Finance Day. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.